Hello and welcome. My name is Frances Billinghurst and I am delighted to be here with a new author. Her name is Michelle Sullivan. She is a qualified primary school teacher with experience working in both the UK and also overseas. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to sort of have a chat with Michelle is that she has been a lover of animals and nature for basically all of her life. And she has combined this really deep passion that she has not only into her teaching experience, where she has been working as an environmental education facilitator for a forestry centre for about 7 years. But she's also a very creative person, and she's used this interest in nature and the animals to sort of morph into the written word. And this year, Michelle has published her, I think it's her first book, but we'll find out when Michelle comes on board. And it's called Baxter, the Rabbit Who Cared. It's a story that not only educates, but also entertains. And I suppose the underlying focus of this book is helping our planet. So I'm just going to bring you on the screen, Michelle, and say welcome. Thank you very much for taking time out to talk about your book, Baxter, the Rabbit Who Cared. I don't know, can you hear me, Michelle?
I can hear you, yes.
Yeah, wonderful. So thank you for taking time. No, that's wonderful. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay. So thank you for taking time out to talk about your new book. But why don't we sort of start at the beginning? Because I understand that you have this really deep passion with nature and animals, and this is sort of, I suppose, encompasses your, can we say, spiritual path, your connection with nature. So how did you first start on this connection with nature, and then how did this sort of be shaped into your book?
Okay, so thank you first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. It's a wonderful opportunity for me, especially as a new author and trying to get out there. So thank you very much. Um, I've just ever since I was a child, I've always felt drawn to nature. I've always loved animals, always loved spending time outside, and I think I always felt like a connection to nature. Um, right from a very, very early age. I think it's very difficult to describe it, but I just felt a connection, like there was something else out there. And I think having a very difficult upbringing and not having guidance from the people I should have had guidance from, it's almost like I was looking for answers outside. And if I couldn't have that from family and whatnot, then it was like I was seeking answers and guidance from outside. And I started tuning into nature and trying to connect with nature and through that kind of thing instead. And I think it's in order to get that guidance and try and get the perspective is need a lot of self-awareness. So I think it's all kind of from a very young age trying to be what's going on, what's happening to me, trying to understand myself, trying to understand life. And so I've always had sort of felt like a connection to nature and being able to tune into sort of the spirit world, the higher self, as opposed to ego. And then I think I was about 15 when I read an article in a magazine, um, and it all kind of clicked into place. Other people were also interested in nature, so I thought, oh, I'm not alone here. There are other people like me. So yeah, it was really good to hear other people that they're also kind of connected to nature. So yeah, and since then, I would say that my spirituality has always kind of underpinned my life. I've always tried to all my work that I've always tried to help other people, whether that be voluntary work or teaching or working at the forestry centre. Um, I've also loved being outside. I love music, and we mentioned my music earlier for being creative. But that to me is kind of connecting into spirit as well. So you could say that spirit in inspires you. Where do you get inspiration from? So I would say that my spirituality and connection with nature has absolutely underpinned all my life from a very early age.
Oh, thank you very much for that. And I think too, especially in our modern world where we feel, well, I definitely feel so disconnected, or you're seeing it's almost like our modern world is very disconnected from nature itself. There is research coming to light just how important nature is, even just walking, walking around your natural park, your local park, or if you've got, like myself, getting out into the garden. It sort of like changes our mood and sort of helps make more sense in the world that can be very chaotic at times.
It just helps slow things down, doesn't it? I mean, I've got a lovely garden. I've also got the river about 5 minutes walk away from me, and I make sure I go outside every day and just feel the earth under my feet. Even I've got shoes on. Listen to the wind in the tree, the wind in the trees. Watch the sparkle of the river. Watch the swans and look if they've got any babies. It's just about reconnecting and just slowing down and tuning in and seeing the change. And every couple of weeks there's another change with the seasons. So yeah, it's really about tuning in and connecting to spirit that way.
Yeah, wonderful. So one of the reasons I wanted to have a chat with you is because of the book that you wrote, Baxter the Rabbit Who Cared. So for people who are not familiar with the book, it is very new, and as you said, you are a new author. Can you tell us a little bit about the book, what inspired you? Because I do understand that there's sort of a backstory to it. So I'll hand it over to you to share us.
Okay. Would you like to see the book?
Definitely would love to see the book.
You see that? Is it back to front? Is it the right way around?
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Yes.
Yeah, I've got there's Baxter. So the idea came to me when it was a friend of mine I had at the time. She had a well-behaved rabbit and two naughty rabbits. And she said that her two naughty rabbits had escaped from their pen and that she'd found them later by following their trail of droppings. So that kind of sparked my imagination, like a 10-day kind of being mega creative. And I came up with the main storyline with the main characters, the main ideas in the chapters. And the trail of droppings is actually the basis for chapter 5. So I came up with the concept. I've not seen this anywhere else. I came up with the concept where each chapter has an environmental education theme woven into it, and then at the end of that chapter, there's a set of questions which then explores those issues further. So, for example, with the trail of droppings, the two naughty rabbits that go through the vegetable patch, and Rowan says, "Oh, I wonder what the bees and the butterflies are doing," and Sky says, "Oh, they look really busy. I wonder what they're doing." So then we're talking about introduction to the bees and butterflies in the vegetable patch, and at the end of that chapter, we then look at the need for bees so we can pollinate trees and vegetables so we can eat. So that's how I've woven that one in. And then in chapter 3, we look at recycling. So Baxter, who's the good rabbit, he gets a crisp packet stuck on his head. And then he's scared, he can't breathe, he can't eat. Fortunately, Polly, his owner, comes out and takes the packet off his head. And why can't people put their rubbish in the bin? So then we're introducing the idea of recycling and rubbish and what happens if we don't put our rubbish in the bin. And then at the end of the chapter, we kind of look at that further, looking at environments where there's no rubbish compared to environments where there is rubbish and how that affects the animal. So in the one picture, the bird has got a twig in his mouth. In the other picture, he's got a straw in his mouth. So you can see direct comparisons to what we do and how that can affect nature.
Yes, and and we hear all the time, and we see images all the time, especially with the pollution in the waters of especially tin cans, where people buy the six packs and don't cut up the plastic string, or that sort of connection as to the danger that can have with the animals. And now we're also getting to the issue of microplastics as well. So very important topic, especially for children to sort of understand a wider or the longer term implications and what can be done about it. So congratulations. I understand too that writing for children can be quite a difficult process as well. So how did you go about sort of like crossing that bridge, so to speak, when you producing a book that is specifically aimed at children?
Gosh, I'm not sure. I feel like it just kind of came to me. I mean, I didn't sit down one day and think, I know I'm going to write an environmental education book. I didn't sit down and write it. It's almost like the idea came to me. It's there where the word inspiration comes from. It's Latin for to inspire, means to breathe into. It's the idea that the God or God's spirit, whatever, blows an idea into your head. And it felt like that's how it happened. It just came to me. I just started writing it. And it was just, oh my God, where's this coming from? I've never really written before. I did when I was a child, but I hadn't written for years. It just happened. It just came to my head, and I just started writing it down. And then I was trying to also bring bits of humour in as well as teaching. I've also got little bits that I repeat, which children like. So in each chapter, for example, the two naughty rabbits, Rowan and Sky, one of them whistles to the other. Polly will never guess what mischief we're up to, because Polly has never known such naughty little rabbits like us before. And then I've repeated that in each chapter. And then another bit that I've repeated, that because kids like repetition. So don't worry about Baxter, you'll always be top rabbit at the end of the chapter, and then repeated those bits as well. So I think that makes it more child friendly with little bits that they can relate to. I think rabbits are also an animal that children can relate to, because a lot of children have rabbits as pets, or they go into the pet shop and there's rabbits there. So I think that makes it more approachable for children as well. And I think having the right illustrator as well made a big difference. I'll just find an illustration here. That's just the first page.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And in your book is so there's a lot of words. So there's really sort of in-depth sort of stories and examples. I wouldn't say morals, but maybe they are sort of almost like all sorts fables, sort of like little stories that all have sort of meanings to them, or an underpinning sort of example, as you said, about the chip packet being stuck on the rabbit's head, and the danger that as humans, if we don't sort of recycle and be careful of our waste and what we do with our rubbish. So what's the age group that the book is sort of geared towards? Is it something that parents read to their children? Is it something that the children read?
It's designed to be read to children, ages sort of about around 4 to 7, but some of the words in the language are a little bit too difficult for children, usually around that age. I mean, you are going to get bright children who can still read it, but it's designed to be read to children. It's supposed to be by children. But then I've had older children interested in it as well, who've enjoyed it. And even some of my friends who are in their 60s, I'm in my 60s, and I really enjoyed it, and they wanted to know what happened next. So although I originally aimed it at that age group, which is Key Stage 1 in the UK, I'm quite impressed and quite proud of myself that it seems to appeal to a wider audience, which is lovely. So
yeah, and I think it sort of like comes back to what you said earlier. It's a very niche book, because there doesn't seem to be a lot of books that sort of focus on the area that you're sort of talking, or the underlying direction that is, well, Baxter, the role that Baxter has. So why is he the rabbit who cared? Why did that sort of inspire you? And where did that sort of meaning for him to care? What does he care about?
Again, I chose that because I felt like they'd be approachable for children. But I'm trying to instill that idea in children about caring. It's everybody's responsibility. It's not just one person, but at the end of the story, we look at caring for each other and working together. Because I think it's important that we all work together as a society. It's not, and that's about looking after each other as well. So expanding on the idea of caring, is not just caring for the planet, which we all need to back caring for each other as well. Have I just gone off on a tangent? Or is this kind of... Or...
You can go on a tangent as much as you like, because I mean, if we look at our world today, we've gone very sort of insular, everybody's sort of like thinking about number one. We don't seem to even connect, and whether it's because of the pandemic or anything, a side effect of that, we don't have the ability now to connect with other people. There's also an increase in loneliness, especially within the younger generations too. So what I'm sort of thinking of is like a book like Baxter is sort of like helping children to sort of like cross that divide that even as older people we were experiencing, so they're not going to feel lonely or isolated, and as you said, also live in a world which is a little bit more caring, a little bit more sort of compassionate. Yes, not only, as you said, for the planet, but for everything. And here we're looking at rabbits, which I guess could be other sentient beings, so to speak, other species, even down to, the birds, the insects, and even moving that into the oceans as well.
I think it's a good point that you made about COVID. I think, and the internet took off, it's on a different level. And I think we've all got so used to connecting with people via Facebook, we forget that that's not actually really connecting with people. It's just, oh, I've spoken to so-and-so on Facebook. It's like, well, it's not really. And I think we've lost the ability to communicate. We've lost the ability to connect. We think we are, but it's not the same as actually in person looking out for people. And I think if you're at home scrolling through Facebook with 900 friends, they're not really proper connections. And I think we need to kind of tune back into what connection used to be, and that's about actually seeing people in person and making proper connections and being more connected. And I think that's kind of the last chapter looks at working together and caring for each other. Because the naughty rabbits, Rowan and Sky, that they play pranks on him. They're getting him into trouble. They're making him fall in the pond. They stitch him up. They get him. It's just, and at the end of the chapter, at the end of the book, the last chapter is about caring and working together, because Polly goes on holiday, and the neighbours come to feed them. The teenagers come to feed them, and one of them feeds Baxter too much and Rowan and Sky too little, and then the next day they swap over. So they learn that they have to share if they're not going to go hungry. And it's at that point when originally the Rowan and Sky don't share, Baxter then completely loses his. I can't swear because I've been recorded. He starts shouting and swearing, and not that swearing to children's book, but he loses it, and it all comes out. Why can't you share? And you've done this, you've done that, you've done the other, and then Rowan and Sky actually stop and think, and it's like, yeah, you're right. Why did we do this? Why did we behave like this? Why didn't we care for each other? Why didn't we work together? And I've kind of woven into the theme that sometimes people are cruel to each other because other people are being cruel to them. But it's about breaking that cycle of abuse, breaking that cycle of negativity. And just because someone wasn't kind to you doesn't mean that it's okay for you to be unkind to the next person. It's about having that self-awareness and deciding, I'm not going to perpetuate that cycle. I'm going to stop this cycle, and I'm going to be kind to the next person. And so we kind of have woven that into the story. And chapter 6 is about working together, caring for each other, and people changing their ways if need be to look after each other as well. So I don't think you can say you're a caring person if you care about animals and you care about plants, but you're gaslighting your neighbour. It's just, no, you're either a caring person or you're not.
Yeah, and I understand that you have a wonderful quote from David Attenborough. So David Attenborough, all about that sort of ties into the whole book. Would you like to share that?
Yeah, no one will protect what they don't care about. That's from Sir David Attenborough. So I'm going to use that as, I feel that completely underpins my book. That if we're going to teach children to care, or people to care, if you're going to teach people to protect the planet, why should they? Why should you protect the planet? Why should you protect animals? Why should we look after each other? We need to, and it's about caring, trying to get that underlying emotion, because emotions are what drive people. So if you can get people to care, we can then get people to protect.
Yes, and again, I'm thinking about our modern society, how we sort of like we as in say the media or the powers that be or whatever we want to call them have a habit of sort of dehumanizing sort of the other, the so-called enemies sort of thing. So we don't have that compassion, we don't have that caring connection. But as you said, it's very important for we to sort of go beyond those limitations and realize that we are basically all in it together, not just humans, but also plants and animals as well. And yeah, when we all sort of look after each other, because Mother Nature looks after us, we just need to sort of step up and play our part, so to speak.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So when it comes to if people are interested in accessing the book, where can they go to find it? Where's some of the best places, and is it available?
Best place for me is via the publishers, which is, if you can see, that's Troubadour.
Sure.
So yeah, there are some places that they take off that much from the author makes a loss.
Yeah.
Amazon being one of them, and you probably know yourself that Amazon, you make a loss of 20 pence a book because they're greedy. And again, it comes back to working together and caring for each other, and not just one company having billions and other people are struggling. I think there needs to be a, it's just expanding on my idea. Obviously, this isn't in the children's book; it's a bit too advanced. But as an extension of my ideas, I think there needs to be a fairer distribution of wealth. I know that's a massive problem globally. So yeah, if the publishers at Troubadour are far better, far fairer to their publishers. So I don't know if you can see that. If
Yes, and I'll put the links in the recording below for people to check that out. And I know for some people, Amazon might be an easier option, but they can certainly reach out to your publisher and just see if they've got distributions anywhere outside the UK and where else they can get that. So I suppose my next question, Michelle, is I know this book's just come out. I suppose a question that people would like to ask is like, how long did it take you to sort of from the original idea that conceived through to having a copy of your book in your hand? How long did that take?
gosh, how many fingers have I got? It took about 5.5 years in total. That wasn't working on it solidly full time. Like I could only sort of do a few hours a week on it, and there were periods when I had a break for a few months. But yes, from the original idea to actually writing the story, going over and editing it, and then the questions at the end, sort of the more teaching part. I actually worked with an ex-colleague of mine to try and get that up to scratch. To kind of focus on the story first. And I was thinking, oh, it's a fiction story. And as I developed the questions, I realised actually it's non-fiction. And if you enter through a bookshop, it would be under environmental education, which is non-fiction. So I had to kind of work that bit out. It is non-fiction, even though it's a story, it's non-fiction because it's environmental education. I then had no clue how the whole publishing industry worked. So again, it's just research, trying to find out how it worked. I then did apply to some agents, and one of the three that I wrote to originally, that I sent my manuscript to, they got back to me and they said that they considered my work, but it wasn't quite the right fit, quote, for their agency. But these are the top agencies in the country. They might receive 50 to 100 submissions per week, and they might take on 5 a year. So for them to get back and say it's good enough for an agent, and they wished me luck with finding the right agent, that then gave me the confidence that yeah, this book is good. I'm not saying there are lots of other books that are also good, but it's good enough to succeed. And then I took advice from somebody else who's well known, has made a success of self-publishing, and I followed her advice and went down the self-publishing route. So that to research publishers, and then also find an illustrator. So I really enjoyed working with the illustrator. She was great, talking through ideas, but because she also works in education, she was able to help me work out what exactly do we, which exactly do we draw pictures of, which do we illustrate. So we kind of talk through what are the main teaching points in each chapter, and the main illustration taught the main teaching points in that chapter. And then there's several pictures as well for the illustrations for the non-fiction as well. So that was about 9 months work. And then, yeah, just getting all the rest of the information, doing my research and thinking about what my inspiration was and local bookshops. And yeah, so there's got a lot of work to do, a lot of work. But,
Yeah.
you know, when you have finally have a book, it makes it all worthwhile.
Yes, yes. And because it's, as you said, the book's unique, and it's like it's a story, but you've got that educational aspect to it as well. And it's almost like listening to listening to what you've been saying. It's because of your background as a primary school teacher, is that you've sort of like known how to sort of put out the story in a way that will appeal to children. You said you know what children like, what sort of resonates with them. And so you can present a more sort of child-friendly, child-appropriate book for them to understand this really important underlying issue that I guess some people sort of dance around thinking that children may not understand, or it's too heavy or too adult for children, but you're presenting a very necessary sort of moral or sort of underlying story idea, and treating children in a more, so as a grown-up way, in a more way
I
where it's
think
very respectful. Yeah.
I think children do respond to being treated as adults as far as possible. I mean, obviously, you can't expect a 5-year-old to understand quantum physics, but you know, I think if you can explain a lot of things to children in a very simple way. You know, you can explain. I mean, I've explained like mental illness to a 5-year-old. Someone's got a poorly brain. You can have a poorly body. You can have a poorly brain. They understand that. So it's about taking some adult concepts and making it as simple as possible and explain it in childlike ways that. So yeah, I think that you can get a lot of concept across to children. It's just making them in a way that makes sense of them and their world. Just simplify everything down to the basics.
Mm.
And that's what I feel I've done in the book.
And I know that this Baxter's just come out this year, and it's taken you quite a while. I'm thinking only 5 years for my books. It's taken me 10 years. And there's
Right.
and when people don't sort of realize that sometimes it does take a long time to sort of go from woe to go when it comes to publishing books and producing a product that you're happy with. So the next question, you may not have even thought about it, is there going to be another book coming out, whether about Baxter or about something else? Is this going to be, would you be interested in sort of turning this sort of book or the concept of this book into a series of animals or concepts for children?
Possibly. I mean, I've had the beginnings of ideas for another book, but I'm kind of going to wait until it comes to me again rather than sit there with a pen and making it, you know, trying to make it happen. I'll let it come to me. But the idea that I have had is looking at inclusion in society. I can't think of the correct term off the top of my head, but yeah, diversity and inclusion, for want of, I can't remember the exact term that's used, but we're looking at about that. So I have a cat at the minute called Sienna. She's black, and my last cat was also black. So I'm thinking about calling it Sooty and Sienna. I'm just like you, and we can look at colour. I mean, I know that some racism. Some people, a lot of things, sort of the things that people of ethnic minorities have to deal with. It's thinking that other white people think that they're inferior. So we've got two black cats. They can catch mice just as well. They can jump over fences just as well. We've got a three-legged cat who comes round. So we can look at physical disabilities and how people with physical disabilities can adapt. There might be a cat who's very traumatized, who's very timid. We can then introduce the idea of people who have been, PTSD, that kind of things like that. And originally the cats might bully these cats who are black, who are got three legs, who have got mental health problems. And then we can kind of also, but then also teach them that actually we're all part of the community. We've all got something that's different about us. We're all just like you, kind of thing. So it's an idea for a book. I haven't started writing it yet, but it's an idea.
No, definitely, and definitely something that I'm quite sure that will be well received as well. Coming back to Baxter though, and because we are sort of like coming towards the end of our time, I'm just sort of thinking about maybe if you could just go through some of the chapters or some of the, you mentioned two of the things that sort of Baxter sort of covers in the book. There's sort of like the environmental, like looking after our rubbish, how important that is sort of like to dispose of that and recycle, and also the sharing aspect as well. So we're not having like one person has everything and other people are missing out. What are some of the other themes that you sort of cover in the book through these rabbits, the naughty rabbits and Baxter?
So chapter 1 is quite short, and it's called Rowan and Sky Come Home to Stay. So we introduced Baxter, we introduced Polly, and you know what a wonderful Polly is, because Baxter has plenty of food, he's got water, he's got somewhere to live, he's got somewhere to run around. So I'm introducing there what do animals need to live? They need food, water, shelter, and ideally somewhere to run around to be healthy. But he's lonely, wants some friends. So Polly brings Ronan and Sky home to stay. And that's introduced the characters, introduced what animals need. And then the questions at the end of that chapter, we discuss what does Baxter need to live, and then we then expand on what pets do children have, what pets do they have, and what do their pets need to survive, and what are the similarities between their needs and Baxter's needs. So they all need food, they all need water, they all need shelter. And what are the differences? So you need to walk a dog, you don't need to walk a cat, things like that. And then chapter 2, kind of expand on what animals need, and we look at what the animals in the garden need. So we start the story with Baxter showing Rowan and Sky around the garden, and we've got covered one animal for each, made up one of the 5 groups. So this is where the robin lives. She likes it in this tree because she's got water from the pond to drink, she's got apples she can eat, or worms, whatever, and then she's safe in the tree so the cat can't catch her. And then off they hopped again. And then this is where the mole lives, because they've got X, Y, Z. So I'm kind of reinforcing the idea that all the animals, although they live in different places, there's also a frog and a fish, although they live in different places, they all have the same needs. And then at the end of that chapter, I then go back and link that into chapter 1, and what are the similarities between what your pets need and what animals outside need. And children then, because to teach people, I think you need to start with what they do know before moving on to what they don't, so they can then relate to and they can understand what animals need because they know what their pets need. So it's like a natural progression. And we've also look at how we're stopping animals getting what they need. And then chapter 3, recycling. I was going to show you some of the pictures from the non-fiction, the questions to show. So you can see there some of what we talked about earlier.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful, yeah.
So again, working with an illustrator, I had to work with somebody, it's the same style, but she's differentiated those styles slightly for the story and the questions at the end. So you can see with that one, you can see there's 2 distinct different, it's the same picture, the same things in it, but it's showing the difference between a damaged environment and a clean environment. So that's chapter 3. Chapter 4, Rowan and Sky stitch Baxter up and Baxter falls in the pond. And then we look at the need for clean water, and Polly rescues Baxter from the pond, and okay, he was okay, but what happens if you drink dirty water? And we're running out of water. What can we do to help save water? So we look at water. Chapter 5, we look at Rowan and Sky run through the vegetable patch, and we look at bees and other pollinators, and we look at those. We need those if we're going to eat. and then we discuss other plants that you can plant to help the bees, like comfrey and foxglove. And then chapter 6, as I said, we look at working together and caring for each other. And at the end of that chapter, we look at the questions are around, how do you feel when someone's kind to you? How do you feel when you're kind to somebody else? So it's not just about people helping you, but it's if you're unkind to somebody else, you don't feel very good about yourself normally. But when you're kind to the people and you help other people, it also helps you feel good about yourself, knowing that you've helped somebody else, and trying to get those ideas into children as well, that you're not helping other people, you're helping yourself as well. It helps, everybody benefits when you're kind to other people. And then kind of, by extension, we look at careers and what sort of jobs involve helping other people. So then we kind of, the idea, teachers, nurses, all sorts of people who help other people, as opposed to jobs like footballers, where they might have £1 billion, but it's all for themselves. It's not really helping the community, unless they do something with that money to help other people. It's all about me, me, me. So again, we're trying to get, by understanding that we feel good about ourselves when we help other people. What would you then do? Is how would they then feel if you had a job that involved helping other people? So trying to get into the children from a very young age that if they choose to pursue jobs or vocations where you're helping other people, you're helping everybody. They're going to feel better about themselves as well. That's the idea behind the chapters.
You've got a lot of very wise sort of thoughts and words and themes in one book, all about fluffy rabbits. So congratulations, Michelle. It sounds absolutely delightful. I'm going to pop down to my local bookshop and actually see if they have it on their shelf. And you did say again that it's not in fiction, it's in education. Is it what you said?
It's technically classed as non-fiction because it's environmental education. At least that's how the bookshops work in the UK. I imagine it's the same worldwide.
Yeah, so there's sort of like an area where people who are interested can definitely just sort of like investigate exactly where it is. And I think books like this need to be, well, there needs to be really more and more books like this, especially how our world is going, because it said children understand probably a lot more than what we give them credit for. And they see what's happening out there. They also see how adults react to the environment, each other. And if we can start instilling better concepts, and also it almost sounds like this is a book, as you said, for adults as well, to come back to those really basic underlining that we are all about. We are all supposed to be like Baxter and care.
If I can do my bit to help the planet just by getting on there, just a few people to care more, then I feel like I've achieved something. So yes.
Yeah, and I sort of see things, and for people who are read to my channel, I talk about this all the time, see us as sort of like the pebble being thrown into the pond. We don't need to, we can't change the world individually, but if I can sort of influence, or if your book can influence one person or a few people, then it spreads out. That sort of like that caring, that sort of compassion, that sort of coming back to nature and what's really important in our world. So thank you very much for your time. Can you just hold the cover up of your book one more time so people can actually see?
Can you see it in that light?
You can up a little bit higher. Can you just hide? And if you like to say something, because Zoom's just focusing on me at the moment.
So is that clear?
That is perfect. So I'll put the links below to your publisher, and also because you're on Instagram and you have your own web page for people who can reach out to you. So probably I would assume that people who are interested who can't find the books, will be best for them to contact your publisher or yourself. Should be the best way.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll put the links on Facebook, the links, well, on my website, it's fine now. So it is there, but if people are struggling, then I'm quite happy to send the link again, because it's not always obvious and technology just play up. So yeah. do that.
Yes. So again, congratulations. And
Thank you.
book number 2 sounds really fascinating too. So hopefully you get an opportunity to sort of like start creating that at some stage soon once we get through with promoting Baxter.
Well, thank you ever so much for thank you very much for this opportunity.
That's all right, Michelle. So again, with Michelle Sullivan, who is the author of a wonderful educational children's book called Baxter, the Rabbit Who Cared, which is all about basically caring only for other beings, but also the planet. So if you are interested in learning more about Baxter and his companions, please check out the links below. Thank you. Blessings.